There is a part of us that is so. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see your faces. Robert, I trust you're safe out there and everything that's windy is going in another direction. So it's wonderful to be here with you. Welcome to anybody who's new, who is watching us on YouTube, Facebook Live, Instagram. I never know that audience directly. Excuse me. But I'm hearing that upwards of 900, sometimes 1,000 people are viewing our material a week. So that's really wonderful. I see some familiar faces. Tonight, we're going to present an early Louise Hay lesson. I've reviewed it some. I didn't review it as much as I would have liked to, but it's one I remember going over many times, probably in the late 80s and early 90s. Louise gave this particular lesson for people who want to take an active part in assisting their own healing or maintaining their health. And so there's a question, are you someone that wants to take some control of your own circumstances, your life, your health, and your sense of well-being? And I'm sure everybody's nodding their head, yeah, of course, right? There may be people who are new on the call that don't know that they have any power. So for you, I'm here to tell you, those of you, you have power. Louise Hay was a part of this center here in New York. It was formerly called First Church of Religious Science. In her training, she learned that there's power that she can use that was greater than herself and that it was ever available to her. And she became kind of expert at teaching what would become her legion of students and readers, 66 million to be exact, that they had power, personal power to heal their lives and power to create peace and abundance and just every good thing. So we learn that we have health, we have the ability to have wealth and creative self-expression. We have all these things that are available to us, and we're able to live our best lives. I'm going to offer you a little checklist that she made up all those years ago for that class. It will help you assess your own health and well-being. So there's a few questions, and you can kind of in your own mind answer them. Do you feel energized and enthusiastic each day, at least for the most part, as you face the day? Is this your general, you wake up, and do you generally feel optimistic? I mean, that's really a little bit of a test. Or do you have a lot of fatigue? I always ask the question every Thursday night, what's the inner dialogue been? What's it been like being you? And no one can ever really answer that question for you. But I mean, you really do know what you're like. So it's something for you to really start to think about. Just notice whether you feel energized each day. And do you wake up saying like, good morning, life, or good morning, God, or, oh God, it's morning? I mean, which way do you tend to wake up? The next question she had on her little quiz for that class is, what's your appetite like, right? Because she thought having a good appetite is another thing to assess. She encouraged her people in that self-healing class, and she spoke about eating better food and asking the question, are you giving yourself quality food? Today, we would call it whole foods, right? Are you giving yourself quality whole foods, nutritious foods, foods that don't have a bunch of additives and things to nurture your body? So that was another question. And then on this assessment was, are you happy with yourself as you think about yourself? And you know, the whole thrust of her material is helping people learn to love themselves, because people have a lot of bitterness and anger and doubt and fear. So the question tonight for you, all of us, as you think about yourself, are you generally happy with yourself? And that's the question you all know who are regulars that I ask every single week. What's it like being you? What's the inner dialogue? Because what that inner dialogue that you're having when you're watching television, when you're going to the kitchen, when you're by yourself, whatever it is that's going on, that's running inside of you, that particular dialogue is the very dialogue that's creating your life. So that's a little assessment question for you to ponder now, tonight, and as we go forward this week. Are you happy with yourself? Because listen, there's nobody nicer to be nicer to in your world. It's really about you and you, right? If you're coming together with us on Thursdays and Sundays and you're learning to expand and grow your consciousness and take charge of your life, if you're practicing the lessons and the teaching, that we teach, your consciousness is beginning to expand, or it's expanded quite a bit. And your self-dialogue has been lifted, and increasingly it's going towards the light. Increasingly, you've noticed, you just won't stay in the negativity. As soon as you find yourself there, you'll release it. You'll find a way to release it right away. That's a person who's really practicing the teaching, okay? We're human, we react. It's very human to react. But if you're really working this teaching and working it well, it's kind of like a blip. You see it come in and you cancel it almost as fast as it happens. You get really good at canceling out any of that stuff. But that isn't necessarily easy for everybody right away, because a lot of people, we all kind of we came in the world where we each have our own, we were each given our own hand, so to speak, of challenges, family background, physical stuff, beliefs, and whatever you were given or whatever I was given, in my case, was appropriate and good, and it's mine to figure out. And that would be true for all of us. But if you're here week by week and you're plugging in, and that's really the great thing to do, because the best students I've always seen, through the past 30 years, the ones who really seem to get it are the ones who stay plugged in. It doesn't matter what circumstances are going on, they just seem to have a way of staying plugged in. And so they can keep reminding themselves of who they are, what they are, and the power they have. So if you're practicing, learning to be a practitioner and practicing the affirmative life, your consciousness is expanding and expanding, and your self-dialogue is increasingly positive. You are, what Bill Tolliver used to say, learning to be a lifter. If you're practicing this teaching, you are learning to be a lifter. You don't even realize you're doing it, but you're becoming an applauder. Yes, an applauder of life everywhere. You're learning to say good and see the good in God, just like Edwina Gaines. Her whole trip was, I'm here to see the good in the God and the God in the good. So that's what we learn to do, is we're developing a healing dialogue. And you're able to go to sleep with ease most nights and awaken with joy. And you might say, oh, that sounds like a big request. But really, truly, as you're practicing the teaching, you worry much less and you're trusting much more. The next question that came up in that early self-healing class of Louise's was, what is your stress level like? Do you find yourself worrying? You're worrying about your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your health or the test from the doctor or your bank account, or do you find yourself with a lot of worry? Louise pointed out in that particular class that worry can be very debilitating. And the stress that comes with and from worry can bring forth all kinds of medical conditions. You can be elevating your cortisol levels, your blood pressure. You can bring about a lot of physical damage from excessive worry and fear, stress. So it's just a question, because if you have a lot of worry and stress, you're in the right place, because as you learn to change your thinking, a lot of this stuff is going to improve. Our recent Sunday discussion, I think it was last Sunday, we spoke about a passage from Mark, which I don't have with me, but it was all about having more faith. I remember from my very younger days when I was an altar boy about the prayer of St. Peter, which was all about, I believe, dear Lord, help my unbelief. So we're learning here in this class, in this teaching, to have faith in the power that's within us. Have faith in the consciousness, because as we change our consciousness, things will improve. And yeah, we will have doubts that will come up, and we want to learn how to handle the doubts as soon as they happen. So the talk that I gave on July 25th really spoke at depth about the importance of developing a certain kind of faith. And you'll do that if you stay plugged into the weekly classes and activities. Currently, we're having a class on Wednesday. That would be a good one to tune in. Reverend Robert and Judith are teaching it. Always, we have a Thursday night presentation and always a Sunday presentation. The more plugged in you can be, the more you'll be able to interrupt a dialogue that's less than, if you're finding that you're reacting all over the place, it'd be really good for you to, form the habit of being a part of one of those or both of those gatherings. So we want to learn how to release doubt and worry. That was on the checklist. Do you have a lot of doubt? Are you full of doubts? Are you full of buts? Are you full of worries? Because these are damaging patterns that will impact your health and your ability to demonstrate the kind of life that you're here to demonstrate. In considering your health, the next thing on that particular lesson is, how's your memory? And I thought, oh, goodness. But she went on to say that you will become sharper and better. Your memory will be better and you'll be sharper if you're learning how to relax more, rest more, and de-stress your mind from worry again. So how is your memory? It's something for you to ask yourself. And if you think it could need some improvement, there are a few suggestions right there. Time for some exercise, better foods, more rest, a little more humor could help too, right? I remember years ago, it was from I don't know which, it was Hakuna Matata. Don't worry, be happy. That's kind of a fun mantra. And it's also really wise advice, not to worry and to be happy. Are you able to stop worrying? And I know that's not easy for everybody. One person I can think of in particular, my father used to say, this person would not be happy if they were not worrying. So, what is it like with you in regard to worrying? There used to be a quote, I don't know if it was Mark Twain or Abraham Lincoln, about how happy a person is. And the answer was, the person is just about as happy as they make up their mind to be. So I guess the question is, are you a happy person? No, you can answer that for yourselves. And the thing about that question is, only you know. And when I was thinking about this old lesson, putting together and freshening it up a little bit, I recall that there's been many really great comedians that were not happy people. They might have performed for us and they made us laugh, right? And brought a lot of laughter to us, but they were not happy. And so you might be entertaining the world, your family, your boyfriends, your girlfriends. You might be really great to everyone else. And really a bright spot in their life. But the question is, are you happy? So that's the self-assessment question for you, for yourself. Are you in a relationship that really isn't working, or in a situation at work that's not working? Because this is your only life. This is not a dress rehearsal. So you really might want to ask yourself, am I happy with who I am and how I'm showing up? And if not, maybe it's time for me to try to figure out who I've come here to be and start to, make a little list and create an intention of stepping out of, different situations. Because You're going to find the weeks, years go by very quickly. And we're here to express life and do it abundantly, joyously, freely. And it's never too late to begin. Ernest Holmes reminded us well. He said, suffering is not of spirit. It's not God ordained. He was Louise Hay's inspiration and ours. His inspiration most likely came from Emerson, I would guess, who famously said, the finite alone suffers. We're at the finite, we're suffering over all kinds of things, while the infinite always is laying back in smiling repose. Let's learn from Emerson and Louise that we are okay. All is well, Louise would have said and did say so often. Let's be resolved to learn and let go of all these states of consciousness as soon as we're aware that we're in them. So, okay, that means as soon as you're in a place of worry or doubt or fear, or you're projecting blame upon someone else, let's acknowledge it, okay? We don't want to be in denial, okay? You're angry, you're reacting. So I say, oh, look, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm reacting. And once you acknowledge it, you find a way to de-energize it, refute it, replace it. You neutralize whatever it is, the doubt or the fear, replace it with some idea of the truth. I will always say something like, I am as God created me. That's an idea of truth. It comes from the Course in Miracles, but it's very beautiful. I am as God created me, in the light, in the love, in the glory. That's a very powerful statement, and it's 100% true. When you're in a state of consciousness that's critical and you're beating yourself up and you're not loving yourself, find a way to acknowledge where you are, find a way to neutralize what you're doing, and replace it with an idea of truth, and do so powerfully with faith. Only you know if you are generally a person of good humor, or only you know if you're a bit of a bear or an ogre or even a beast or something in between those two poles, right? If you have it all working pretty well, you're practicing the teaching and you're knowing you're supplied and supported, you're going to develop a certain precision in thought, and you're going to know that life is reflecting your consciousness in somewhat of a synchronistic way. If you're really working the teaching, you're going to notice a certain synchronicity and serendipitous quality to life, naturally, because we exist as individualizations of God itself. And as we're opening up the channels and the creativity within us, quite naturally, you're going to see beautiful things all around you. David Walker used to talk about opening avenues in mind. The kingdom is at hand, it always has been. The good, the God, the glory is always here and available to us once we lift up the shades and we're able to see the beauty, the presence, the love, the abundance that's surrounding us and flowing in and out of us. So as we're practicing the teaching more and loving ourselves more, we're going to be sensing and living from that place. And you'll start to notice, and you'll have a gratitude most likely, and a certain humility that will come from really realizing that you are cause to all of this and you're able to witness it. Again, this was from one of Louise's earlier classes. And all these questions she asked would help us or her students understand that their own mental patterns create their life experiences, both good or bad, good and bad. And in asking these questions, we begin to learn how the law works. And it's not about being right or wrong or good or bad. It's simply about learning about how the law works. In this particular class, she instructed the students, mental patterns create dis-ease in the body. Dis-ease is, notice how she used that word, dis-ease. Dis-ease, she thought, was something that could help us see if we're on the right track. Since she absolutely believed that we are living in a spiritual world and that we are cause to our own experience. I've had many students over the years, many, who wanted to fight me on this. And they would say, well, I'm not cause to this. I'm not cause to that. I'm not cause to anything, right? Because, you know, when people are coming into the teaching, there's oftentimes a lot of, a little bit of the blame game. It's like the devil made me do it. My parents did this. Someone did this to me, and poor me, ain't it awful? And, you know, they're what I would call, they're defensive, and they're pointing the fingers towards other folks. And it's real easy for us to get stuck into that kind of blame game. We might blame ourselves. We're terrible to ourselves. Sometimes we don't like ourselves, and we're really good at beating ourselves up. Or you might even be blaming God or the Creator or your family. The list is endless of the people that people blame. The thing we know, those of us who are in this teaching, who are in this class, who show up regularly, that it's impossible to move forward when you're making your life and your circumstances about the person who has wronged you. And you keep defining yourself in terms of your past and how difficult it is. And you keep coming from a place of woe and nobody understands and poor me and ain't it awful. See, that's, even if some of the things have happened, we have to find a way to harness our energy in a more positive way. Newer students sometimes have a difficult time understanding that everyone is where they are by right of consciousness. And that's a lot to explain. But, you know, the whole world is evolving. As I am evolving, everyone on this call is evolving. And you're in the perfect place. If you're listening to us a month from now in a different country or a different place, we're telling you, wherever you are and however you've gotten here, you're wonderful, and you've already healed and accomplished a lot, and it will get better and better. And the thing to realize is, don't compare yourself to the people you know who you think are better or much worse, because everybody is in a place of personal evolution. Life is giving everyone lessons all the time. As we join in this class weekly, we intend to get that faith, to increase the faith, to know and learn of the power of our word and our consciousness, and become more and more dedicated to do the work, to change our thinking. So we can give you lots and lots of ideas how to do this, of course. You can tune into any of our activities because we're all about changing in lesser states of consciousness ideas for greater. Staying plugged in every week will help a lot. As I say, the students I've seen go the furthest are the ones who, you know, they clear the way. This is for themselves. Anytime a person is in a class like this, they're taking some time out for a faith break and a reminder. And some of the very best students I always had, they've gone through all the classes, through all the years, and they come in for this weekly reminder. So staying plugged in will help you. Communing with some of the greatest minds that have been around is easy to do. You go to YouTube, you can open up a book of Emerson or many other great New Thought writers that can remind you about yourself. I would encourage everybody in this class, as Louise did in the same class, to have your own personal mantra to say throughout the day. I'd suggest it be short and powerful, or learn to do a deeper affirmative prayer. And, you know, if you don't know how to do that, then get a hold of myself, Reverend Judith, Robert, and one of us, and we'll work with you. And we will have a class on affirmative prayer. But begin with a powerful affirmation to have with you all the time. I gave you one of mine already. Another would be, I am supplied and supported, or I love, accept, and approve of myself exactly as I am. Whenever you forget or you're having a bad day, have an affirmation, a powerful one that can hook yourself back into the truth. Complaining will not get you anywhere. It will not help you. The thing to know about the process of life is we are always learning lessons. So even when things look like it's all mixed up and things are going awry, is actually, whatever is happening for you. We find out in these lessons what needs to be changed and what needs to be released. Every single day and every single week, we're being given lessons. And if we're working it right, we're mindfully noticing what's coming up for us. Let's say you're having an encounter and it did not go the way you wanted it to go or you expected. Okay, there's a gift there for you. It's really enlightened to look for the gift rather than go for the blame. And when things come up and you notice that you're in a mood that you don't like, or you're going towards the blame game, or you're being critical of yourself or others, there's things you can do. You can cancel the thought, right? Delete it, cancel it, and replace it with a better idea or a bigger idea, an idea that is true. As we learn to do this, as we learn to do this practice, all of this signals that healing is taking place. As we're doing this with our bodies and our minds, we're healing our whole being. There is a center of wisdom that we access to heal ourselves. Once we understand the process, we're able to take conscious control of what we wish to change in our lives. Then we can say to ourselves, I have already begun the healing process. Once we do this, things begin to shift and all the healing processes begin. Louise, in the same class, said the body is a mirror of all of our thoughts, all of our beliefs. The body is always talking in a way to us. Every cell is responding to every thought we think and every word we speak. Your face, she thought, reflects your thoughts. A scowling face, she said, reflects the thoughts that we think. Then she asked, how do you want to look as you grow older? So she's really talking to us about, changing our face and our expression. And it's our birthright, Louise said, to be totally happy and totally fulfilled in all areas of our lives. For better health, her suggestion was to be working with your doctors and working on your thought patterns. If you're working with your physicians and working with your thought patterns, she says, don't make anyone an enemy. Every hand that touches me, she thought, was a healing hand. So is working with thought patterns will accelerate the healing process. Relax more, take a deep breath, more and more. Let thoughts, positive thoughts and life-giving thoughts wash over you. It doesn't matter even if you understand all of it. Just begin to let go of anything that's going to bring stress, worry, fear, anger. Only the ideas that are right for you will be accepted anyway. She maintained that your subconscious mind always hears and records what you need to hear. Louise, in her early classes, said something very controversial when she said that all illness is self-created. And that doesn't mean that anybody wants to have an illness. What she was talking about, once again, is what we teach in Science of Mind, which is our thought patterns create a mental atmosphere where everything happens, right? And where disease can grow and flourish. And also, those same thought patterns, if changed, can create wholeness and health. Louise Hay herself had dealt with several surgeries and self-healing issues. And she commented, if someone has a surgery without doing something to change the cause, what they're doing is prolonging their life, right? But they're inviting another problem. So she suggested getting at the root causes of all dis-ease and health issues, which she maintained as spiritual beings, it's all really about consciousness. We want to eliminate the cause of dis-ease of every kind. We are responsible for our experiences. And so we want to harness the power that Dr. Holmes described. He said we have power available to us to use, and we can, and we will. And that's what we ultimately do every single week we gather. in every activity we do. Toward the end of this particular lesson, she said, the universe completely supports our inner growth, our dialogue, and the subconscious mind accepts what we believe about ourselves and what is true for us. We have unlimited thoughts to think, so let's choose great ones. As children, we learned how to feel about ourselves and our life by the reactions of everybody around us. We're not children anymore. We can now drop the things that don't work. I've spoken endlessly this year about the agreements that we have inside of us since the time we're kids. We spoke of the 4 agreements. We have a lot of beautiful agreements and laws, and we have a lot of stuff that really we'd be better off letting go of, right? So we want to let go of the racket and embrace the bigger ideas. We don't want to blame our parents. We're grateful that they taught us what they taught us, and even the stuff that they taught us that maybe wasn't the best, we're now in a position to release, let go, in gratitude, knowing they did the best they could. I'm going to skip through the next section. She had this theory, I'll say it out loud, it's not my theory necessarily. Louise Hay thought that we incarnate on the planet the perfect right time. I know that's right. And that she thought that we choose our parents and where we're going to live and who they're going to be and all of that. I don't know if any of that's true. Then she went on to say, we move through life creating all of our experiences that match our beliefs. And she really, at that point in her lesson, was saying, please, please, please stop blaming other people for anything. Whatever you're noticing in other people is more likely things that are yours still to work out. So bring everything back to yourself and realize I am as God created me. I am the cause of my own experience. Okay, you have the ability to see everything differently if you want to. The next, and I think the second to the last point she made that particular evening is the point of power is always in the present moment. What you experienced or what you experience, you have always created with your own thoughts. So, I'm always bringing in, and Ernest Holmes spoke about the corpses or the dead wood we carry around. If we could just drop that stuff and be in the present moment, you don't carry anything. The point of power is always in the present moment. And I so beautifully remember Ram Dass years ago saying, be here now. Be here now without any of that. Drop the history, his story. Drop the story you have about everything and everyone so you can be wholly present right here, right now. From this sacred place of now, you get to create anew without any of the baggage, right? What you choose to think and believe today is creating your future. What you have experienced in your life up to now have been created by your own thoughts and all the things that have happened to you. So we want to release all that so we can be wholly here now and create and let life begin to respond to us as it always will. The suggestion she had is, she was closing that day, is pay attention to what you're thinking, not to blame ever, but just pay attention, notice what comes up so you can learn to cancel the things that are not life-giving, and begin challenging yourself to turn all those thoughts around. You'll be amazed before you're halfway through it, the demonstrations you're going to start to see in your life. You might think, if you're a new person, you don't know, like me, inside of me is so much doubt, negativity, and anger. And I would say to anybody in the call who has those sentiments, I can relate. I think many of us can relate. But what we do is we begin where we are. And it might have taken you 20, 30 years or more to be where you are. One thing I can attest is as you start tuning in and working on yourself and your own consciousness and your dialogue, you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. You'll see sooner rather than later the results of this spiritual work. Louise thought that everybody on some level and to some degree is suffering from some level of self-hatred or that their self-esteem really isn't what it could be. See, the whole thing about her book, which sold more books than just about any other book of the last century, is it was all about learning to embrace and love yourself. And very subtly, we work against ourselves. Most of the world is not awake. Most of the world is living in reaction to everything. But those of you who are embracing this teaching really have been given a great gift. And you know the power you have to change your life, to heal your life, and to heal the world. So as we join together here at the center, we're doing something that's wonderful for the world and wonderful for ourselves to transform ourselves and to have a community and a center with a commitment to do that for